Hello and a very warm welcome to Design Date. My name is Becky Metcalfe. I'm Head of Content at Design Centre Chelsea Harbour. In this virtual format, we're keeping our community engaged and inspired wherever they are. And we're bringing together designers and industry insiders for some great conversations online. Now, rugs can be a game changer on how a room looks and feels. They can bring harmony, or they can make a statement by adding wit and personality. So I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Jennifer Manners, who has a passion for innovation, colour, and the technical craft of handmade rugs. And Mary Graham and Nicole Salvesen too, co-founders of Salvesen Graham. They have over 25 years in the industry and are known for creating homes that will feel stylish and comfortable for years to come. In this creative collaboration, get ready to be inspired by some colours and textures as we dive deep into decorating with rugs. It all chimes rather well with our First Look campaign, which shows the palettes for spring, summer, and it's very easy to see First Look on our website. For now, I'm handing over to the wonderful Charlotte Abrams, who's chairing today's session. I've got a hunch with so much to discuss, there's not going to be time for Q&As. So thank you for tuning in. Put your feet up and discover why a great rug is the ultimate design tool.
Thanks, Becky. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking about decorating with rugs on this rather chilly spring afternoon with three enormously creative people with a wealth of experience. Jennifer, Mary, Nicole, welcome to Design Date. And together you have created a hugely successful rug collection called Scallop. Before we start looking at that, tell us how that collaboration came about. Mary and Nicole, why did you want to work with Jennifer?
I think Mary might have been on maternity leave at the time, so I think it's probably
I had no say.
My responsibility. We've had quite a lot of maternity leaves between us, but I think we initially, first of all, just when I first met Jennifer, I remember saying to Mary, "Oh my goodness, it was what I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful." And I think one of the things about collaborating with people is just really enjoying the process and enjoying it. But initially, this started as more of doing something for the showroom, doing something, but it was sort of in a way just to do something together. And it was in the very sort of early forays of our Salvesen Graham doing collaborations. And I think I seem to remember pouncing on Jennifer with Mary actually at the time at Decorex when she was probably a little bit busy with other things and saying, why don't we do a scallop rug? So I think, I'm sure Jennifer probably remembers it differently as we were pretty busy at the time. But, I think it is, and then it sort of went from there. But it was very much over to Jennifer to be the creative sort of driving force between how that was going to become. So yes, I think does that sound right, Jennifer?
I was going to say, why did you say yes, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think just to get rid of us off your stand at Decorex.
I remember them coming to the stand. Yes, whatever you want. Of course. It's definitely, I remember meeting with Nicole initially in their showroom and looking at the scallop pattern, and it's such a classic pattern, and certainly from the area, the country I come from in the States, I'm from the South. It's a classic design that's been used, and so, but no one had ever thought to do it in a rug before. So it was really to Mary and Nicole who said, "What about doing it on a rug?" And it was one of those like, "Wow, yes, let's do it." And then I think as we developed it, the idea was, but the pattern's wonderful, but could we actually cut the shape out in a flat woven rug? So that's kind of where we thought, actually, went back to the weavers and a lot of back and forth and determined that it could be done. And then I think we knew we were onto something really quite special.
Because that shape is the thing that's so distinctive about this rug, and it's very unique, isn't it, to have a rounded edge on that double border format. For those of us like me who don't really understand those words I've just said, tell us what that's about. We've got some really nice pictures of mood boards and then some detail of that rug. But what is that shape? What does it do to the rug?
Well, I think partly it's the shape and how it's cut out, as you can see on the floor. But I think it's also the use of the double border. that we've employed, because it's allowing a bit of color. But I think the rug has been described quite a bit as being fun and very happy. And so I think it's people see, when we do rugs, part of the appeal is in curves, because the super straight lines can feel austere sometimes. And
it's a softness, isn't it?
Yeah.
I
was just going to say, sorry, it depends on the colours, which I think we might talk about a bit later, but it can add a femininity to a room, I think, in the shape. But then equally, if you do it in the colours, you can see the dark blues, then you're balancing that with actually a masculinity in the colour as well. So it's quite a nice way of combining both. But you can often find you've got a long expanse of a straight line in a room when you've got a big rug. So the curve definitely provides that softness, which I think is a real appeal and something that hadn't really been on offer before for people.
And I think this, and actually sort of the way Jennifer managed to make this happen and work, is such a good example of, showing people that, and this is what Jennifer's so brilliant at, is doing something different, and that can be done in all sorts of rugs. And this has just been another way of sort of showing people that you can, think a little bit wider in terms of actually making it a real feature in the room. And it doesn't dominate, and that's what's so nice about the edge. It just sort of adds a little bit of, it's gentle in what it's doing.
And how does it work with furniture? We've got a picture of it in, I think it's in your house actually, Nicole, is that right? This next picture coming up.
Yes, exactly. I think it's that's the sort of snap of it, and it is. It works really well, especially in bedrooms and things like that, because what you're doing in so often with a rug, even if you're in a sitting room, you're putting a big coffee table or an ottoman on top of it, and you're covering up a huge amount of the sort of center space of it. So often with rugs, the design is all based around the center, and that's what's so lovely about this, is that we're really taking the design out to the border where you're actually seeing it. So and so often with clients over the years, clients say, especially in bedrooms, the cost of this rug that has to be so big to go under a larger bed, and that sort of thing, is so much of it is hidden anyway. So this is just such a brilliant answer to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of the decorators listening will know, as Nicole said, partly that's driven by aesthetics, and we want to see the border and it's interesting, but it is driven by budget as well. It's a hard sell to say to someone, 70% of what you've just spent is hidden under a super king bed.
That's a really interesting point. That never occurred to me, but
we've been asked several times, could we just make it and leave the bed
cut out a hole in the middle?
Indeed, not very feasible if they want to move. But
And why was it so complicated? I think, Jennifer, this is a question for you. I mean, it posed some real problems or challenges for the weavers, didn't it?
Yeah, I think partly because when you're weaving, it's a flat woven rug is how we've done it, and that's done very much on a grid. You've got a warp that runs vertically, and then you weave in the weft. And so with the grid, it lends itself to angles, obviously. And so making that there have been a lot of flat weaves that have curves, obviously, in them, but getting the symmetry with each scallop being exactly the same on the left and the right and all the way down. And how they make it is actually, they make it in a rectangle shape. You have to make every rug in a rectangular square.
We've got a picture of the weavers actually at work. We could have a look at while you explain
exactly.
that.
Well, you can see the rectangle, and so it's actually then cutting out. You can see, on the left-hand image, you can see that it's actually a rectangle. So it's allowing for kind of error that you can get the borders to be symmetrical. Each scallop shape has to be equal and the same. And it's just that level of detail that just requires a little bit more. I mean, weaving a rug is a skill, but I would say that actually what the weavers who do the scallop, it's a real talent. It takes a lot of concentration.
And I think it's balancing a handmade product, with the high demands of the end user who's a interior designer in London or New York or wherever, who's probably got a client that's expecting, near to perfection.
Yes.
And Jennifer's brilliant in the middle, keeping everyone happy. But it is a handmade product that's got personality of the weaver in it. But they do such an amazing job to give us a consistent product. It's really incredible, such a skill.
And how long does it take to make one?
My favorite question, Shauna. Well, as Mary points out, every single stage is handmade. We, depending on the size, we do between 10 and 14 weeks, and for some very enormous ones, which we have done, anywhere up to 16 weeks. Wow. It's the dyeing takes a long time, and then they build the loom for every single rug we make. It's built specifically for that, and wow. And then it's the finishing. You know, the hand binding and the hand finishing is just time. You know, it's just time intensive. With all of our rugs, every time it's washed, the wool, we use a New Zealand wool on the wool rugs, and the wash helps slightly open up the pile and enhances its softness, and so all those little steps do add to the time.
But add to the beauty of it. I mean, that's what it's about. All of that time, isn't it? And obviously, it's been through several iterations. It was launched, I think, in 2018, wasn't it? And there are now 11 colours and 4 sizes, standard sizes. And how do you decide the colours?
I think we initially came up. I mean, the cerise was the first one because it really worked with, you know, obviously Mary and I, whenever we're thinking about colours for you know, our projects or our collaborations, it's certainly what we're sort of really loving, and you know, our interiors are very classic, so they tend to be very classic colours, so the cerise is, and so many of them, it's so interesting with the scallop colours that we've chosen, because so many of them just seem to go with any, you know, so many interiors. The cerise just goes really pretty much in anywhere, and the denim does as well. It just goes in you know, both really traditional and contemporary interiors. So I think certainly some of the colours we wanted to have a bit more fun with, and others wanted to just stay really classic. And then the new collection of colours, we've definitely decided, we chose those because we wanted to feel a little bit more, as we said earlier, it is a playful rug with the scallop edge, but we wanted to also make sure that the colours were giving it that sophistication, and that it could have been used more in drawing rooms and that sort of thing as well, and that's what we're really pleased with.
So it's a sort of slightly more grown up, maybe the older sibling, the next lot of colours. I think what we find so great about it is that with the really bold, bright colours, it can look fantastic in a contemporary setting, but then the same rug in the more kind of muted or sophisticated colours can just feel totally different in a more classic, traditional setting. So having the broad range of colours, and then obviously it's completely bespoke as well. So a designer can come with their scheme and really tailor the colours to work with that scheme. So it's just been brilliant. I think the colour element of it has made it so usable for everybody, either going with what we've already designed or you know, going down their own sort of journey of colour. So yeah.
Sure, and you've also got the base colour, and you've got the colours in the borders, so you've actually got sort of 3
There's lots to play with if you want to. We laugh that we keep just doing the you know, we've designed it ourselves and we never do a bespoke one. We always just do.
But I suppose in a way the actual colours are bespoke to us because we chose them, so that's why we do it. But I think we did one. We've done one recently that's a bespoke colour. We're like, this is our first time we've done a different colour. But Jennifer, I mean, it's so exciting for us, because obviously Jennifer sees the other designers and they specify, and then we see the photos later on. But there's so many different ones, aren't there?
I think also, I think what I saw is when we designed the first collection of colours, and very much guided by Mary Nicole on colours, all the grounds were neutral. They were either an ivory and then kind of doing the second set of colours, we used a sky blue, we used a denim blue, we used a lot more colour, and I love the idea, and what I think people have embraced about it is that even though on a denim coloured rug, so much of it is blue, it's a lot of colour, because of its simplicity, they're able to use the colour in a bright and bold way without it feeling overpowering.
Sure.
And I think that's part of, you know, the key about the colour is people want to use it, and it's an investment piece, but how to do it and still keep it elegant and timeless. And but I mean, it's amazing some of the colours we have seen used.
There was an amazing one recently, wasn't there?
So a very bright yellow,
Neon
the
pink.
bright
Oh,
pink.
lovely.
I know.
We've got some slides of some of the colours. While we look at those, tell us about, so, I mean, rugs go on the floor generally, and people hang on the walls as well, but generally they're on the floor. Is there something particular about you putting colour on the floor that changes the space, or is perhaps a route in for people who are a bit less sure about bold colour?
I think it's the rugs are probably one of those pieces in a room. I mean, like lamps and those sorts of areas that actually it's a way to sort of it's a way to have a piece that's not too bold, that's not going to be domineering, but that can help, you know, make a really formal space feel a little bit more relaxed. We tend to like to sort of create a space, and then we always say it's slightly mess it up a little bit, and that's not by saying that we're sort of making it messy, but sort of make it feel like it's not too you know, sort of not too defined and refined, I suppose. And I think that really helps, and a rug's a really good way of doing that. So something that's a little bit unexpected, and that's really nice way to choose colours, which is why I think the fun colours work really well in this.
And it's a good way for people, I think, to sort of dip their toe into colour. We're often asked by people who are nervous of colour. They know they want to embrace it, but they're nervous of it and don't know how to. And as Nicole mentioned, you know, lamps and cushions, loose accessories are a really good way to do it because it's not too much of a commitment. But I think the joy of this rug is you could go for quite a neutral ground, and then you've got the playful colour on the edge, and it's just a slither of something, but it makes a big difference. And I think that then gives people the confidence to then kind of springboard off that and do more. And it wouldn't surprise me as well if designers who start like that probably then, as Jennifer said, go on to specifying the next one with the colour in the body as well, because it's just building up that sort of confidence with colour. But it's a great way to add it into a scheme, I think.
And when you're coming up with new colorways, do you start with the ground, or do you start with a palette, or, you know, how do you work out the ground and the two stripes? And
yeah, I think we start with the general palette, don't we, Nicole, of the kind of vibe that we're in at the moment and what we're doing in our own interiors. And often we're probably drawn more to a natural ground because it just suits the way we work. But definitely, again, it's not just aesthetics, it's practicality as well. You know, people like a stronger color on the ground because this rug lends itself to families because it has quite a youthful feel to it, and with families comes mess and potential spillages and stains and all that kind of thing. So I think it's aesthetics, but it's also practicality that feeds into it as well. So the rugs that have got the darker blue ground, that's great for someone that's, you know, got a pet or is worried about marking a more neutral rug. So the beauty of the bespoke nature of them is depending on what project they're going into. You know, if it's a smart drawing room that no one's allowed to take a glass of wine with them in, then you can have the palest of colours. But if it's a playroom, you're going for the more forgiving colours. So we start with what our sort of designing flair and mood is of the moment, but definitely I think practicality plays a big part in it as well.
Jennifer, you're so wise when it comes to sort of practicalities of grounds anyway. I think you know, the other thing is that actually some of the lighter grounds are perfectly equally as practical, especially with the hard wearing nature of the rug. But I think actually so much of it is sort of psychological. You know, actually it comes down to that, because there are so many you know, treatments and things. And Jennifer, maybe you should talk about the you know, how you offer a treatment for the rugs anyway.
Yeah, there's an amazing product that's called Aqua Defense that it's a non-toxic, and it provides an invisible barrier onto the fibers. So it just kind of, it's an added protection that is completely amazing.
So no reason not to choose a pale rug.
Things in the past, and I think I personally have had the experience that they do work. I think with a woven rug, you're seeing kind of the side of the fiber, and so it's a large part of this exposed, where when you've got a pile, things can get into the pile, and it may be a little bit easier to hide stains. So it's you know, but I think actually Nicole's point about it's psychological that an ivory base or a light color based rug is going to be more, you know, vulnerable to it. It's not, you know, they're all kind of hard wearing, and that's the beauty. When in our first collection was with the New Zealand wool, there's so much natural lanolin in it. So it's a little bit of a natural wax that already it kind of resists fluids, but I mean, the Aqua Defense is it's completely bulletproof and amazing. So,
but you've also got a sustainable one, haven't you? Which I think is also very good, very hard wearing. But it's made from a yarn made from recycled plastic. Tell us about that, Jennifer.
Well, you know, it came about actually on a trip to India when they came and said, "Look at this fiber, and it's amazing." And of course, the concept using recycled plastic is fantastic, and we can all understand that. But you know, the rugs that we make are all completely handmade and they're a luxury item. They're made bespoke. You know, we don't stock tens of thousands of them, and so with that, we needed to have the fiber to be luxurious. It couldn't look plasticky. And I had seen before a throw, that fantastic concept, but you could see the reflection almost of the plastic. And so we said, fantastic, love the idea, but it took us a couple of years working with this fiber, and we do 2 different processes. At one stage when it's being dyed, to have it mimic wool and to keep it still a really luxurious item. Quite a feat, because of course everyone hears plastic and immediately thinks, oh, it must not be quality. But it's you know, there's so many amazing things out there that you know, we're all becoming a lot more sustainably minded and focused and that kind of thing. But what's amazing about it, if you think about plastic, is that all the things that make it so bad for the environment, it doesn't break down. You know, it doesn't fade. It's moth resistant. You know, all those things. It makes it super hard wearing for a rug. And so so I like to think of it as being sustainable, but also hugely high performance. And there are other kind of high performance rugs out there, but they're actually using virgin plastic, which is again just sort of creating this massive problem that we have on the planet with too much plastic. And
does it also feel like, well, we've got a picture of it, and certainly from the picture you wouldn't possibly know it wasn't wool. When you touch it, does it feel like wool?
It does. I can tell you, I did go in to present to a big interior design firm in London, and of course told them all about the repurpose. And they a week later said, you know what, actually, could you send us a sample? We thought that sounded really amazing. So we sent the sample, and they called that day and said, oh, might have been some confusion. We asked for the repurpose sample.
Oh, really?
And of course, they had been sent the repurpose. So you know, it can be indistinguishable.
It's amazing. It's so.
I remember when you brought it in, we were sort of like, this can't be it. You know, it's so close. It's so close to wool.
Yeah. So and actually, well, I mean, we're quite keen, you know, we're more keen because of the sustainability on the repurposed rugs, and you know, Jennifer is working on a whole, you know, collection of different ones, and they're it's such a brilliant idea and such a brilliant concept. And you know, as you say, certainly with our projects, I mean, we're lucky because obviously part of our interior aesthetic, we're reusing a lot of furniture, we're, you know, repurposing things anyway for clients. So to be able to also offer new products that have that sustainability is just brilliant. So it's such a wonderful thing, and we're really keen on it. We do mini mats. That was a little photo of them there with Jennifer. It's something we've developed as well, and they're all in repurpose now, and that's you know, the ones that we're doing now, because it's so hard wearing and really a brilliant product.
And it means you can just start using rugs in a room where you wouldn't, you know, you might normally be nervous about it. So a kitchen or a bathroom, something like that.
Fantastic.
With the repurpose,
And I think when we do go to a family and sort of present things, it's the children that get so excited by the concept of that, and the idea, you know, a 2x3 meter kind of a standard size rug would use over 4,000 recycled plastic water bottles.
Wow.
By the time they've broken it down and turned it into a fiber that is a weavable fiber, they're repurposing. Yeah.
That's really exciting.
1,500 bottles, yeah. And that's in a pretty small rug. So by the time we put that same fiber in a knotted rug and really large, I mean, we're using, you know, tens of, you know, over 10,000 plastic bottles.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's
really
exciting.
Brilliant.
That's the way forward. We've got some beautiful pictures of Scallop, both probably repurpose and non in projects that you've done. Talk us through some of these. I mean, they're such a wonderful visual explanation of what a rug can do in a room, but just you know, sort of explain what's going on in these spaces.
So the one on the left is actually a wonderful lady called Philippa de Brue, and that is her dining room. She used that, and it's just such an amazing image. So that's the way someone else has used it. And that's Cerise. And again, you know, I think that is such a good example of how that colorway just goes anyway, because it's just such a fabulous wool treatment and things like that. So that's how it's been used there, and I think it, you know, shows that it's very timeless. You know, it just sits really well in there. And then on the right hand side is my house, and shows, you know, I think again how the denim just works really well in with all these, with the antiques and those sorts of pieces. I think it's really nice to see something like that is playful and fun, but works with very classic pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, on this one we've got the next one, the same rug with very, very different results.
Yeah. So we wanted to show sort of these two together to show how on the left-hand side, I actually just did a post about it today on Instagram. You've got it with pieces of furniture from the 1600s to the 1970s, sitting very happily amongst all of those and sort of tying them together. And then on the right-hand image, that's a modern family home, and it's still working. So I think it really shows the versatility of the rug. And we often talk about this with Jennifer, that I think it's the simplicity of the design. As with most good design, simplicity is the key, and that's why it sits so comfortably with other things. And that's the reason why we love it, because our design ethos is very much like, if something's well designed and good quality, it will sit with something else that's well designed and good quality. So when people are worried about mixing periods of furniture and styles and things, we always say, you know, if you love it and it's quality, it'll work. And I think that the rug really demonstrates that.
But it manages somehow to be both quite quiet and discreet, and yet you really notice it. It's a real kind of pop of playfulness. That's a clever thing to combine.
Yeah. I mean, I think absolutely. I mean, one of our golden rules is balance in interior, in an interior. And, you know, I think the room on the left here is Hannah from de Gournay's absolutely wonderful bedroom. And actually, it's such a good example. And maybe the one in the middle as well. You know, there's so many impactful pieces in that, in these images. Actually, probably even on the right hand side, you know, there's lots of impact in these images, but yet because nothing is fighting against it, they're all of equal weight, so they're all sort of equal impact, and therefore it's very balanced and very calm. So even though, you know, the wallpaper on the left is sort of really bright and vibrant, and it's got this rug on the floor, the skeleton, it's got a big scalloped pelmet on the curtains, it still actually will probably feel, well, you're there, very, very calm. And I think that's what's so interesting with these interiors, and that's why this rug works so well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's obvious why it's been such a huge success. Are you going to work together again? We'll have a scoop on Design Date. Can you give us one?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, we love designing things, and it's hard not to keep pushing forward. But I'll let you do the scoop, Jennifer.
Well, I mean, we have, I was saying to Mary Nicole earlier that it's amazing. At the moment, I'm seeing everywhere gingham and check, and so it's no wonder that the next rug that we've got coming up and launching at Design Week in May is an amazing check rug that's coordinated with a lot of their fabrics that have just been launched. And so another kind of classic pattern, but done in a really cool way. So
it's going to be really fun. As Jennifer said, we've been working and, you know, have our own check fabric, which is well, we've got 2 scales of it, but, you know, that we do, it's a great check, and so it's a really big scale check fabric, and so it just seems like such a natural progression to get excited and
that's very exciting. So that will be in your showroom at the Design Centre in May.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And if people can't wait, actually, you will be open on Monday, I think.
We will be on Monday with all the scallops on display. Come and see.
It's been so lovely to talk to you. We had so much to talk about. It's flown by, but thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Thanks very much.